Welcome back and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. So, how are you looking today at your data from an analytics standpoint? We're pulling in so much data today, but marketers struggle with getting a hold of it and really creating insights into that data. And when analyzing that data, are you recognizing it as a competitive advantage, or is it being underutilized across multiple systems and siloed in teams that don't give all parties a cleaner and clearer view of the goals that were initially set out by the business? Jim Sterne is the founder of the Marketing Analytics Summit, the Director Emeritus of the Digital Analytics Association, a speaker, author, and a subject matter expert at marketing and web analytics. And on this episode, we'll discuss some of the successes and failures of marketers today in analytics, being data-driven, tools, silos, outsourcing, hiring the right talent, the Marketing Analytics Summit, and a lot more. So let's tune in to an analytical marketer with an analytical shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Jim, thank you so much for joining us today on A Shark's Perspective. If you would please tell us a little bit about your background and your career to date in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, I describe myself as a professional explainer. I sold personal computers out of a retail store in the early 80s and then business computers to companies that had never owned one before. I sold software development tools. This is Fortran and COBOL.
Yeah.
Wow. And in 1993, when I tripped over the internet, I went, oh, that's going to change marketing. And that changed my entire career. So that's when I started public speaking and writing books. And then in 2002, started what is now the Marketing Analytics Summit Conference. And the audience of that created the Digital Analytics Association. So there's my nutshell.
Well, then when you started looking at the internet, why not stay into programming and development? If you started working on Fortran and COBOL, which again, did you ever think that you would want to be a coder? You were obviously involved in the computer industry of sorts and working
Absolutely
with Fortran
never.
and COBOL.
No. I was in sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Never was I a coder. There are two things in life scare me. One is programming, and the other is heroin.
Oh, nice. Good
I
comparison.
think I would never come back.
Yeah.
I would build a logic castle in my mind and live there, and that's frightening. So no, I'm going to stay with sales and marketing. Thank you
Good for
very
you.
much.
So you've written how many books? 6? Is it 6 books?
12.
You've written 12 books. I saw.
Are we counting second and third editions?
Well, let's just count them. Let's just count the main editions, the first edition.
Okay, then it's only 8.
Only 8. Well, that's still a pretty damn good number. Your last book, though, was on artificial intelligence for marketing practical applications. So, what inspired you to look at that field in particular?
Well, my impetus for writing a book is always the same. It's I see something coming. People in marketing need to know about it. Let me get in early and explain before there's just too much research. So marketing on the internet, web marketing, my book came out in 1995. My web metrics book came out in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's, well, heck, if you're in marketing, you're going to have to understand what machine learning is. So yeah, it was time for another book.
So we'll dive in a little bit deeper with metrics and analytics. What are the metrics that you're, especially with you being part of the summit as well, what are the metrics that you see marketers succeeding in measuring today, and where do you see them generally failing?
They generally fail by looking at the numbers and looking at the data rather than looking at the business. So here's Google Analytics. Let me open up the home page, and there are the standard default reports. Oh, these must be important.
Right.
No, they're not. They're just standard default reports. They have nothing to do with your business. What are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals? And if you don't ask that and you just start mucking about in the data, you're not going anywhere.
Could not agree more. What are you seeing them succeeding in measuring then?
People are succeeding at measuring that which they are focused on from a business perspective. So in marketing, you've got your 4 main areas of awareness, engagement, conversion, and loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
So You want to do all of them, but you can't do them all at the same time. So, which one is the highest priority right now? Let's focus on that. It's, you can't become a data-driven organization by buying a tool. You can't, oh,
Excellent point.
we need to automate everything in our marketing. No, you can't automate everything. No, you can't become oh, we're going to just sprinkle AI on top of everything and it'll be great. You have to solve one problem at a time. So, what is the most important problem to solve today? Let's find the right data set and the right tools and the right people to help us solve that problem. And then over time, you will have solved many problems.
Hmm. Well, your conference, the Marketing Analytics Summit, which has been going on for, you said since 2002.
Correct.
What are you seeing as sort of if you sort of look at a long tail trend of in analytics, what are you sort of seeing there as analytics evolves over time?
Well, I guess the first trend was recognizing that JavaScript could collect more data than log files.
Mm-hmm.
So we're only going back, 15 years on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then a very common problem, which is going away as an industry, but when you talk about a trend, every company experiences their own growth in a different way. So I'm sure there are people listening right now who are having this same problem still, but as a trend over the industry, it's not as difficult to convince upper management that collecting data is a good idea.
Yes.
Used to be really hard. Now it's easier, but there are some companies that some people going, well, my boss still doesn't get it. Yep, I know. And then there's some companies that are actually data informed and automated and doing a good job. So across the spectrum, um, the big trend is we know data is valuable. We are being data informed. I don't want to rule out gut feel because when you bring gut feel and data together, you are more powerful than any other way. But people are going from being data informed to being automated to let's try some of these new tools. And that's sort of, it has always been thus.
From a consulting engagement, when somebody brings you into a brand,
Hmm.
what are you seeing as far as something that is often bothers me as to where a lot of the disconnect is that you've got so many different siloed teams looking at disparate relation of data,
Yeah.
and they very often they can make insights, but those insights don't necessarily come together, because everybody's going down their own swim lane, if you will. And is that a trend? Is it something you've seen as well that you've noticed where they are going in multiple different directions?
Yes. And again, it has always been thus. We've got a problem, a technical problem, where the data that's being collected is being collected by unique systems,
Exactly.
storing unique data sets in unique ways and analyzing it in unique ways. And we're taking the results of all of those different systems and trying to make them add up. And this is, we're trying to add up the alphabet. It doesn't work. So that's a technical issue of extract, transform, load. Then there's the political issue of, well, I'm in search, well, I'm in sales, well, I'm in
100%.
email,
Yes.
and that is political. So I need to have somebody high up who understands the value of bringing all the data together to make it happen. And that requires tweaking of the compensation platform to say everybody's going to be compensated better on better sales, not more email opens or display ads clicked.
So, what are your thoughts on the data? You alluded to this with what JavaScript could pull in, but there's so much data right now that's being pulled in that's not being measured. I think we take for granted. I think we measure just a small amount of the data that we're actually able to still pull in, and a lot of that's just not shared, or it just falls into dark matter, if you will.
So if you're collecting data that you are not analyzing,
Mm-hmm.
this is an expense. You are spending money. Why are you bothering to spend money there? If you're collecting it because you think it might be useful someday, then show me the plan that says when that day is going to come and how you're going to fund it. Otherwise, you are burning dollar bills.
Exactly. So with CCPA and all the different pending legislation that's come sort of as part of that GDPR wave, how do you think CCPA and the other legislation, that could potentially be federal and national, will affect what we're measuring?
Massively, and as well it should. Um, Privacy, the conversation quickly becomes one of legality versus ethics.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a data collector and data processor and data optimizer, I go to my legal department and I say, take a look at CCP and tell me if it applies to us and what it means I should do about it. And the lawyers say, well, we don't know. When there is a lawsuit and a decision is made, then we'll tell you what CCPA compliance actually is.
Great.
Until then,
Yeah.
as your lawyer, we recommend that you don't collect any data about anything ever, because that's our job.
Yeah. And good
Well,
luck
that's
with
useless.
that. Yeah.
So that's that. I can't work with that. But as a marketer, I can put on my ethics hat and say, I want to do the best for my prospects and clients. So I am going to offer a value exchange for their data. So the first example that came along was 1995. Amazon said, give us your email address and tell us who your favorite author is, and we'll send you a newsletter. And I thought, what? I'm asking for spam? They said, no. Tell us who your favorite author is. We'll tell you when they have a new book coming out, and we'll give you a 20% discount if you pre-order a book you're going to buy anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, sign me up. This is a service.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be happy to tell you my favorite authors. That's a fair exchange. As a customer, I'm delighted.
Your most recent book, Artificial Intelligence for Marketing, Practical Applications. When you look at the role of AI today and where we're going with it versus what we actually know is machine learning, kind of unpack, if you will, one, how you see the difference and where do you see us going?
Well, first, we have to do definitions. Artificial intelligence is a broad term that covers lots of cool things that computers can do. Natural language processing, computer vision, robots, self-driving cars. Oh, and also in that is machine learning, which is what we care about. Now, I wanted my book to be called Machine Learning in Marketing, and the publisher said, that's not sexy enough.
Exactly.
It's got to be AI. Okay, fine. So AI is this broad term, and the explanation is, if it's written in R, it's probably statistics. If it's written in Python, it's probably machine learning. But it's artificial intelligence if it's written in PowerPoint.
Great point. So how do you think machine learning, at least then, kind of describe what you mean by the practical applications that marketers can use with machine learning from a high level within the book? You talk about the different applications available to all marketers, but really the ones I know that really want to become more data-driven in their focus.
Machine learning is a new kind of software. So when should you use a statistical analysis, and when should you just use an Excel spreadsheet, and when should you use machine learning? You don't need to be a data scientist to understand the differences and spend your money wisely. If you are advertising with Google or on Facebook or on LinkedIn, you are using machine learning whether you know it or not. So in the long run, it's like asking, are you using a computer? Because machine learning is going to be pushed down onto the operating system and into the hardware. It is that valuable. But the important thing for marketers to understand is that it is a different type of software that can be used for a specific variety of problems. And if you have that kind of problem, it's a great tool. If you don't have that kind of problem, it's overkill. But it's just a tool. Having a hammer And a saw does not make you a carpenter, but it's much easier to be a carpenter if you have a hammer and a saw.
Mm-hmm. Then, from a carpenter standpoint, and I'm sure you see this in a discussion a lot, even at Marketing Analytics Summit, what I'm hearing a lot is that teams are having massive problems, not only trying to change some of their focus to become more data driven, to spend more time on looking at the right analytics, but they're having a big problem with that because they're not able to attract the right kind of team members.
Hiring in this world is really difficult. So I've got the business decision maker, the marketing person, who sits next to the analyst, and the analyst translates the business problem into data questions. And the analyst sits next to a data scientist who is supported by a data engineer who are actually creating new algorithms and building models to help answer the analyst's question. The data engineer, they're easier ones. They're the easiest to find because they are hands-on tactical data plumbers. They're going to extract, transform, load. Data scientist, impossible to find because they're too expensive now and they're being hired up by all the big guys,
Mm-hmm.
Google and Amazon and Microsoft and IBM. The analyst, you really should grow your own because the best analyst in the world is the one who understands the data and understands the business. Now, a data scientist understands the data inside out, but is not necessarily a business person. The business person understands the business inside out, but doesn't understand algorithms. The analyst is the translator in between. So if you can find one, hire them. If you can not, there are consultants. And if all else fails, grow your own. Find somebody who loves math, who loves puzzles, who is naturally curious, and teach them the business. And what you're hiring for is curiosity and common sense, because those are the attributes that are going to help the company use machine learning the best.
Well, now, based off that last answer, I'm curious, do you lean towards companies outsourcing their data science or insourcing it?
If you are IBM, Google, Facebook, you have to have data scientists. But the rest of us, I am recommending buy versus build. You can, if you find somebody who really desperately wants to be a data scientist, there's so much available online that you can go study. There's data you can play with. There's algorithms and data space that's cheap, and go invent stuff. Great, have a good time. But reality says, I have a problem to solve, a task to do. So I would go to the vendors. I would say, hey, I am an Adobe Analytics user, and they have Sensei to help me. I am a Salesforce.com user, and they have Einstein. That is machine learning on all of my data, and oh, by the way, on everybody else's data. So Salesforce's Einstein learns across lots of horizontal businesses, and I can apply some of that learning to me. I'll give you another example. Shopify is a million tiny e-commerce websites, but that means there are tens of millions of customers, and they're doing behavioral analysis across them. So they have something called KIT, K-I-T, and KIT is a text messaging user interface that says, we see that people coming from Facebook, there is an opportunity to get them back with a remarketing program. Would you like to see an example of a remarketing email? Yes, no. Yes, I would. Here is an example. We recommend that you test this by spending $25 tomorrow. Would you like to go ahead? Yes, no. Yesterday, you spent $25 and you got a $75 return. Would you like to increase this to tomorrow for $45? Yes, no. That is machine learning at work, at scale, requiring zero data scientists.
I heard Neil Patel and Eric Sue do their little short podcasts, and they were talking about never outsource your data. And it depends on your vertical, but it's really an interesting question to ask. So,
Well, it is multi-sided.
yeah.
Your data is your competitive advantage. I wholeheartedly agree with them there. You know your customers, nobody else does. But go to a third party to find data that you can use to enhance your information. Go to a social media tracking company and find list your best customers, go find out what they're tweeting about and what they're liking on Facebook. Absolutely. Go to companies like Experian and find out whatever you can. Oh, yeah, look over your shoulder for CCPA, you bet. But third party data can be very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
You do not want, it's awkward to say that I am going to not outsource my data when I'm using Salesforce,
Mm-hmm.
because that's my platform. That is my data. So it's a conundrum. There's a lot to unpack there.
So then the Marketing Analytics Summit, talk a little bit, if you will, about what makes that conference different. I know a lot of the things that you've got as themes are generally, you're not talking about a lot of the fluffy stuff. I mean, you're talking about data-driven culture and analytics and attribution and marketing science and AI for marketing. Kind of describe, if you will, how that conference is a little bit different, around those themes than what other conferences are.
I think it is a matter of conference culture. When I held the first one in 2002, I had 50 people show up. 30 of them were vendors, 10 of them were consultants, and 10 of them were real people doing real work. But everybody understood that we were such at the beginning of things that the ethos of the event was, how do we help each other? Well, I tried this and I got this example. Oh, well, I tried this and I got this result. Well, wait, if you guys are doing that, maybe everybody could do this. And oh, that's a great idea. And the vendors were thrilled because they were finding out what customers actually wanted and what companies really needed. Consultants were thrilled because it was making them smarter, but the big deal was practitioners were learning from each other. So that is why the audience created the Digital Analytics Association to carry, more than just a conference. We want to have a platform for professional development, training, education, all that stuff. And I think this attitude that we're all here because we're learning together is really what made the difference. Now, I layer all of this with the fact that I am insatiably curious. And so I see this as an opportunity for me to gather the brightest, most experienced people I can find, put them on stage and teach me stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll invite a few hundred of my closest friends to come and sit in the audience with me.
How do you look at blockchain today and where it's really, you're starting to look at it as part of the analytics and marketing mix?
I believe that blockchain is a very important part of our future. I think it is. It's not ready for prime time yet.
Exactly.
There's a lot of infrastructure, and I don't mean technical. There's a whole lot of corporate business level infrastructure that has to happen before people
Absolutely.
say, "Oh, here's the right platform that will give us the promise of blockchain." I think our future in marketing and in business is dependent upon it working. So I see a large community out there building it. I think it's going to solve, well, it's going to help move the ball down the field for privacy, for security, for ad spend, something as simple as ad fraud.
Ad fraud, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's going to make it possible to do smart contracts, and it's going to shift us over into what Doc Searles calls intent broadcasting, where we will own our own data. and we will create systems that will negotiate on our behalf as consumers.
Hmm.
And it's blockchain dependent. So I have high hopes. Um, I don't know which horse is going to win this race, but I certainly hope it happens sooner rather than later.
Agreed. So when you go back and look at your own career and where all of your focus has been, your crystal ball, if you've taken that point of view where you're looking at trends coming ahead, what do you think is the next trend that you're going to need to invest in based off your own career experience? And what's the next book? You said that at least on this book that the biggest change to marketing since the internet is AI and machine learning.
Right.
What do you think will come after that?
I've just been talking about with customers owning their own data. Um, if you look at what Tim Berners-Lee is up to with the Solid project and his company Inrupt, they are proposing um, a method and a platform and a technical platform for, instead of me having a bunch of apps and each app knows a bunch of stuff about me, I store all of my data in one central pod and I give access to Amazon and whatever game I have on my phone and whoever I want to exchange micropayments with to view their content website. That is a unique perspective that's turning data management on its head.
Hmm.
Instead of Google and Facebook and Amazon and Apple knowing so much about me that they're selling me to everybody else for advertising, I would own my own data and have a system that would know enough about me that it would become my true digital assistant, and let me know that my dishwasher is going to fail next month, and it went out and discovered a dozen different dishwashers that'll fit in my kitchen, and six of them will fit in my style, and two of them will fit in my budget. And then it negotiates with those two and finds the one that can be delivered on a day that's convenient for me.
Hmm.
And that will be marketing. So that's over the what I'm looking at over the horizon.
Jim, you are in a city that I love, and I've done a dive off the coast near the islands where they have plenty of shark life. You're on a shark's perspective with a marketer named Shark. So, what is your
There we
favorite?
go.
What is your favorite kind of shark and why?
My favorite kind of shark.
Not a question you're generally that's generally
No,
discussed at the Marketing Analytics Summit.
I guess the great white, just because of Bruce in
Thank
Jaws.
you. So, it's that special time in the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
I am sitting down. I am ready.
All right, here we go. Santa Barbara or Las Vegas?
Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I was wondering when I saw that the conference was in Las Vegas. There's just not enough conference space, I guess, in Santa Barbara, but it's
Exactly
sure
right.
sure a better place.
I started in Santa Barbara and
You
quickly
got too many
outgrew the
friends. Yeah.
yep.
All right, being a conference speaker and organizer or being an author?
Oh, conference. Yeah, people. I,
People.
I love writing, and it allows me to have my say and organize my thoughts. But creating a PowerPoint and then getting real time response from human beings and then learning directly from them is just hands down the best.
Agreed. AI or machine learning?
Machine learning, AI is a buzzword that could go away at any time, and I wouldn't shed a tear.
Targeting or attribution?
Targeting, attribution is a it's a hope. It is faith-based marketing. Targeting, oh, that's a different animal. That's segmentation and actual math.
Yeah. Number 6, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is, other than what was the name of the shark, uh, is biscuits or cornbread?
Cornbread,
Really? Okay.
yeah, it's sweeter. I
Good
have a
point.
I have a huge sweet tooth, so
There you go.
that's easy.
So, Jim, where can people find out more about you, follow your thoughts and leadership, find out more about the conference and more?
Well, let's see. Let's start with Twitter at Jim Sterne, or targeting.com is my personal consulting website. The conference is the Marketing Analytics Summit. And I'm also can be found on Medium and LinkedIn and everywhere that fine bits are sold.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, Jim, for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
A lot of fun. I really enjoy talking to sharks. Thanks.
You bet. So there was my conversation with Jim Sterne, the founder of the Marketing Analytics Summit, the Director Emeritus of the Digital Analytics Association, a speaker, author, and a subject matter expert at marketing and web analytics. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, we spoke about some of the trends that he sees marketers make today and where they often fail. As Jim said, they generally fail by looking at the numbers and the data rather than by looking at the business. This is so very true. Marketers have gotten in the bad habit, unfortunately, of looking at GA, for example, as some sort of directive on your goals as opposed to working towards those goals. With GA or any form of analytics, you should be able to gain insights into the customer, not just analytics that aren't necessarily the goals of the business. Second, so if I've complained about this once, then I've complained about it a million times. We silo way too much in our efforts, and that includes how we look at the supporting data around a business. As Jim said, and I quote, "We've got a problem, a technical problem, where the data that's being collected is being collected by unique systems, storing unique data sets in unique ways and analyzing it in unique ways. And we're taking the results of all those systems and trying to make them add up." As he went on to say, and I completely agree, it does not work. When marketing looks at one data set, customer care looks at another, finance looks at another, and so on, then why would we ever be surprised when a customer gets frustrated with a brand? So little is truly aligned in departments and that data, and that most often doesn't align easily for the goals of the business or the view of the brand by the customer. Align your data and goals and teams around some sort of commonality within the business, which should be with one common view to serve the customer. We've got so many points of data, yet we don't align it to form one view of the customer. We've got too many different views that are supported by too many different teams. Third, we spoke about one of the biggest challenges that exists in digital marketing today, and that's hiring the right talent. That's especially true when you consider hiring a data scientist, if you can even find one, or some other person for your organization who will help manage the data. I'm a big fan of trying to get more people, when they're hired, involved in the data early. Grow them as much as you can. But we spoke about this in reference to whom should manage your data. You can at least think about it this way. As he said, your data is your competitive advantage. You know your customers, nobody else does. That is so true. However, there are a lot of other sources that you should consider taking your data and enhancing it with third-party data to learn as much as you can about your customer. So you can insource your team or outsource, but always lean on the best option you can for gaining as much insight from that data as possible. As a brand, for example, you know who you're performing service requests for and who you're billing. However, there is other data out there that can tell you so much more about your customers' habits in the wild after they leave your website. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. It has been my honor to speak with you today, so let me say thank you. And here's some analysis for you. I love doing these podcasts for you so much. So please join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.